In this video, I'm going to give you an overview of the key features of the Actions Pack plugin. So by now, you should have downloaded the plugin from the website. This is the actionspack.com website, and there's a download link on the page there if you haven't done so already. I should point out you will also need Elementor Pro activated within your WordPress account. This plugin works in harmony with Elementor Pro. You don't need any additional plugins to make it work, and nor do you need to configure any settings. This works out of the box. So once Actions Pack is installed and activated, you don't need to look for any additional settings or any additional widget settings that you need to change. This will work straight out of the box and is embedded within the Elementor Pro Forms widget, and I'll show you in just a moment where those settings are and how you can use those to configure and customize your own website, your registration forms, and your login forms as well. So this is a really great feature of the plugin in that it just works straight out of the box. And I have a registration page already created in which I'm just going to walk through some of the key features of the Actions Pack plugin, how it adds functionality to the Elementor Forms widget, which you may be familiar with, but how this will really let you customize your own site, your own login pages. No need for that horrible WordPress default login page. You can change that and make it your own and set this up so really you have a very customized, very good looking website with your own branding if necessary, set up good to go. If I just open the page, we can take a quick look inside and see how some of these features within the form can be used. Now, this is just a demonstration form setup here. If I click on the Elementor pencil, the edit icon over here, it brings up the form fields, which you may be familiar with these if you've used this before, which is great. If not, this is just a standard form within Elementor. If I was to search up here in the gallery, the widget gallery, it would pull up the forms options, and this is the one that I'm using here on the page, and I would just drag that over and drop it in like so. Obviously that's just doubled up now, so I'm not going to use that one, but that just gives you the idea of where that came from. So I can delete that and just remove it from there. Okay, so I'll just click back on the edit pencil, and we've got our form fields over here: name, email, username, and password. These are fairly standard, and if I just click on one, you can see how this is set up. It has a type. For example, the name has a type, and you choose the type from the drop down here. Again, these are fairly standard features. There are some advanced settings as well, which lets you pull out the specifics of this field if you needed to send this data, pass this data perhaps in an email, using the short code which is available here. So each form field has its own unique characteristics and identity, which is great because that helps us customize our data and map the fields and the registration to the WordPress backend. So we set this up: name, email, username, password. This is just an example to run through. We can turn the labels on or off like so, just to help people if there were forms getting a little bit cluttered. These are all customizable as well, I should add. So if I click on name, for example, the label can be changed to something like first name if that's what was required, and that's easy to change. And you can also put a placeholder in the box here, which will appear as the gray text in the middle. So that could just stand on its own if we turn the labels off, perhaps. So that's just an option you might like to use. There's also the option here to make it mandatory by turning it on or off. And also connected to this is the required mark. And if I turn this on, you'll see how we now have a red star, essentially highlighting that the name is a mandatory field. And we can toggle that on or off as well. So that's just a quick overview, really, of the form field settings. The magic with the Actions Pack plugin really starts to happen once we determine what actions we want to happen after they hit the submit or the register or the login button. Whatever this button is, the actions you want to perform next can be set here, which is really, really great, because this can be our login page, it can be our register page or sign up, or whatever language you want to use to make this your own. Now we just come to the actions after submit, and you can see here this one already says register in this example. If I click in the space, we have a whole bunch of options here. I can scroll down, we can send emails, we can connect to various additional third-party applications as well. So MailChimp is an example. You can, depending on the plugins you have installed on your site, you could connect to other services such as Aweber, GetResponse. These are the ones installed by default. But what makes the Actions Pack plugin unique and brings some specific functionality to this drop-down list, which you won't get in the native Elementor Pro widget, we have registration, we have login, we have reset password, Google Sheets, and SMS as well. So we can really do some powerful work here with our site. We have register selected at the moment. And if we go, I should say, by doing so, if I deselect that, for example, you see the registration menu item disappears. If I come back into this space, scroll down, and we choose register, and now it reappears, and we can customize the settings inside. So now we can take a look at how to map these data entry fields. That's basically what they are. The user is going to put their information into these fields. We can map these to the fields in the back end of our WordPress website, and we simply match them to these fields here. So we start with user role. Typically subscriber is probably going to be the one you want. Others are available from the drop down, but probably subscriber. Now we can map the WordPress username to our form here, and we're going to say that will be, and we've called it username anyway, so we'll use that. You can also auto-generate. It's worth pointing out there's an auto-generate feature here as well. And if I toggle that on, this will automatically generate a username using the form field, and it creates a shortcode as well, which could be sent in an email, for example, to your subscriber. The password, there's the username field there. That's the one we're mapping to this field. Similarly, the password, we just choose from the drop down. We've got the password. Now here is a great feature. You can use password confirmation by turning this on. Now what we would need to do, which we haven't enabled it on this form, is to add another password field, and I would just simply give that the name, something like re-enter password. I would just give it a different name to this field, and then we would enable this to be able to compare the two. I would choose re-enter password here, and the logic would compare this field with this field, and to see that they match. And if they don't match, it gives the user a little error message, just to please check. It's a very useful feature because it just makes sure that when they're creating an account that their passwords are accurate, and they stand a better chance of remembering their own password rather than having to go through the password reset option, which we can create. I should also point out there's the auto-generate feature for passwords as well. So it'll automatically generate a random password, and again, there's a short code for that, which could be sent to the user just to help them understand what's been set. On the email field, this is where we have quite a few settings to help us guide the user through the setup process. And we're going to basically map the email to the email field, because this is data that's going to be stored in the back end. We can turn email verification on and send either a link or a one-time password. And these are both powerful features. Link will be a link in an email sent to the subscriber, which they will then click on to verify their email address. OTP, this will be an SMS service sent to their mobile phone, so that will help validate their mobile phone if they've entered a number into the site. We could put a form field here, for example, for mobile telephone. And if you've enabled an SMS service with your WordPress site, then you can just set OTP as the default value, and they will get a text message. Quite powerful, because the email that gets sent out won't have a link in it, so perhaps there's a better chance that that email doesn't go to a spam folder, for example, because it doesn't contain a lengthy verification link inside. But you have the choice. You can link or OTP. Obviously, SMS is an additional service that you would need to use to connect to your WordPress site. But we can now enter a redirection URL, and the tooltip will tell us what this redirection URL is for. And this is for after they have successfully verified the email that you send to them, This will redirect them on that click to a particular page of your website. You may have an onboarding page, for example, with further guidance, next steps, actions required, etc., etc. And this will steer them in the right direction. This is the notification which needs to be turned on so the verification link can be sent, and there's a warning message here. And you can set up your email particulars, just customize these as required, plain text or HTML. And here's the message box in which you can make sure, as you can see here, the verification URL shortcode has already been inserted automatically. So this is going to send for you straight away once that's good to go. Now, that's the email field. In this example, phone is not enabled, but we can also add additional fields as well. What this is saying is that the user field name, and we're choosing this from, these are a list of fields essentially from our WordPress site. This will be stored in the back end, effectively the back end user accounts of our WordPress site. The user field name is going to be mapped to the form field. This is the form, and these are the form fields. The form field name. So we've done another mapping exercise to make sure that within the user account stored in WordPress, the user field name equals the user name, or the user's name here, not to be confused with username, which is a separate field there. But you can customize this. We also have an auto login feature. So after registration, they may be auto logged in. A redirection option. We can hide the form if the user's already logged in. And there's a manual verification process option as well, which means that if you enable this, the users can't log into the site until they've been manually verified in the back end by the website administrator or moderator. It gives you control as to who is actually creating an account and whether or not they can access your site as required, because you have absolute control and can approve or otherwise. Now, I mentioned the additional fields here, which I just want to show you one more feature, because what you can also do, depending on the needs of your site, you can use the custom field option as well. See at the top here, we have custom field. Now, what this is going to do, if I just use as an example the WordPress users table, and you can see some demonstration accounts here that we've created to help illustrate this, and whether you can see at a glance whether an email has been verified, and the key form fields that people have entered their data into. We can create additional fields in this table, and this is what the additional fields option is here. So by using custom field, I can give it a meta key name in effect. I'll just call this test for the sake of this demonstration. Test field, it doesn't really matter. And I'll map it to, I can pick any one of these just to illustrate the point. I'll just choose name again, and I'll update this. So essentially what we would have is another data field in our form that could be stored in the back end. And if I just refresh this page, what we should see now is the test field. Obviously there's no data in that yet. We haven't filled in any forms, but you can see the power of that level of customization whilst creating your own form fields, your own form design using the Actions Pack plugin. And so that just about covers the main features of a registration form. What I'll do now as an example is show you how you could very quickly create a pop-up form to use as a login feature on your site. So what I'm going to do is, using the Elementor templates feature, open a pop-up, create a new pop-up I should say, add new pop-up. I'll give it a name of login, and we'll just create this starting with a blank page, just so you can see how using the Actions Pack widget to create the form. I'll close the templates down. I'm not going to use any templates. We'll just put a new section I should say into our builder here. And I'm just going to add the form like I showed you a few minutes ago. And now we can customize this. I'll take the message field out. What we're going to do is really, as this will be a login form, all we're going to really need is the email address and a password field. So from the drop down here, I'll select password like so. I'll give it a label password. That's for the placeholder. I can also put one in so that appears above like so. We can edit the button, but I'll come on to that in just a moment. The next thing we want to set is the action after submit event. At the moment it's email, that's come up by default. I'll close that. And what we're going to want to do using the Actions Pack features, this isn't available, these features aren't available in the normal out-of-the-box Elementor Pro form, is the login. And then we can customize the login. Now we get a number of additional options here with the login, and we can use login via options. We can have an ID and a password, an ID and a one-time password, OTP, or a combination of all three. So you can really customize this to suit your own requirements and be quite robust in the settings that you create and set up there. So we can set user ID by mapping these fields. I'll use that as the email. And then we can obviously take the password from the password field, like so. And then we get some additional options here. So we can have things like the remember me. There isn't a field here, but I could add that by going back to form fields. I'll just demonstrate this quickly. Add a new field. This is going to be an acceptance field for the remember me. And I'll give it a label, remember me. And this is so that the form will recognize you using cookies. And we can probably just leave it like that for the moment. It could make it a mandatory field. I wouldn't do that for a remember me. It should be optional, I think. And I'll turn on the required marks and go back to the login settings. So now if I go to the remember me option, and we can use the remember me field like so. And it gives you some information here about the duration in days that this will be active for and how that works. We can set up a redirection as well. There's a number of options here based on role. So we can have role-based redirections if you're an administrator. This is particularly useful for a subscriber. Where do you want them to go after they log in? And also, if you notice down at the bottom here, we have some additional options. We've got a logout redirection URL and also a default login page. Now I want to highlight this one really because back at the beginning of this video, I did say you can get rid of your ugly WordPress default login page. And this is where you could set the default login page, change the URL essentially, so it's no longer that ugly WordPress one. You can have your custom page here. Now, of course, if this could be a page. I've used a pop-up, but of course, don't forget you can add additional features to this. It would make sense to put a heading in, and you would customize this obviously to be congruent with your own website. And you could also go and perhaps you have a logo and you'd want to add that up top, and you could use the dynamic tags to connect to a site logo, for example, clicking on there if you had one set up, and then you could resize it and play with this and customize until it's doing exactly what you want for your site. And so that really, I did mention the button. Actually, I should probably just finish. Particular note: if we go to the button settings here. And we can easily change the text on the button from send to something like sign in or whatever is appropriate to your site. We can center the button, and in the normal Elementor styling options are available. We can change colors, etc., on the buttons there, hover effects, that kind of thing. And so that's something you can play with to design away the form to meet your needs. Now let's take a look at the password reset feature of Actions Pack plugin. You're probably used to seeing a screen like this, and this is just the standard WordPress password reset field. It's a bit ugly and not very user-friendly. Well, we can customize this. We can basically create our own within the plugin by using some customization options. And what I'm going to do is demonstrate the functionality with a form that I've set up, and then I'm going to show you exactly how I set it up. So I'll give you the visual first of how this works so you have an understanding. But I've added a forgot password link here just beneath the sign in button. It's a login form. Typically that's when a user is most likely to have trouble with their password and need a little help. So you can click on the link. I've created another pop-up. It could be a page, but I quite like pop-ups for this kind of functionality, but it could be a page if that's your personal preference, whatever fits best with the design of your own site. And now I'm going to enter my email now into this address field here and hit the reset password button. That will send an email to the email address I've just entered with a link, a clickable link that will then bring me back to the password reset form. Let's do that now. My password's already saved. I've entered that. I hit the reset password button and I get a confirmation message. Please check your email for the instructions to reset your password. So let's do that now. I've now received the email, which you can see here from ActionsPack, addressed to me, and it says, hi, using the following link or OTP could also be used. I'm going to follow this link to reset my password. Okay, the reset password field has now appeared open as a pop-up on the page, and simply all I can do now is come in and reset my password by typing in a new one, hit the reset button, and I should get a confirmation message. The form was sent successfully. Now all I need to do is log in and check that the new password successfully works. What I'd like to do now is jump back into the back end of my WordPress site and show you how this was set up. Okay, so here we are in the Elementor template section. I've opened the pop-ups menu link here, and I've created two pop-ups which you saw in the demonstration. The first was the login pop-up, and then that was followed by the password reset pop-up. We'll take a look at both of these. Obviously they're connected, that's how they work, and I'll start with the login pop-up, which I've already opened up in a separate tab here. And very simply, all I did was create a text link here. Now this could be, in terms of design, you could position this anywhere on the form. It's really up to you how you design this. We've got a form for the login, which is email, password, and a remember me option. And now we've got the forgot password text here. So to connect the forgot password text with the actual forgot password or reset password form, this one here, to make this connection between the two, all I did, I'll come to the forgot password field here, and you can see there's a link entry here. What I'll do, I'll delete that and I'll re-enter this so you can see how I created that. If you look here, there's a little dynamic tags link. If I click on there, I'm going to scroll down for the actions where it says pop-up. Now, it's found pop-up, but we're not finished yet. We have to tell it which pop-up we want to connect to. So by clicking here again in the box, I get the action to open the pop-up, and I get the menu search bar where I can enter, if I enter reset, it's going to do a little search, and it's found the password reset template. I click on there. It's now highlighted or selected the correct pop-up that I want to connect to. I just click away, and that is something I would now update and save, like so. So this text field, this heading, I added as a heading from Elementor, is now linked. It's a clickable link to open up a pop-up, and the pop-up is the password reset. Now, if you go to the password reset, I've designed a very simple form. I just dropped a heading in the top. This could say anything you want. It's going to be congruent with the design of your own website, so you can change the color, the font, the style, etc. I just want to show you the functionality. And we've got two fields. We've got the email field and the password field. Let's take a look at those. If I just select the tab here, we've got email and password. And there's not, out of the box, if you add a form, a new form to your site, I'll just show you how I did this. I'll just drop it in here below. The default is name, email, and message. Name, email, and message. So all I did was delete message, delete name, and I add a new item, which was from the drop down type was a password. That's all I do at this stage. We can click on there. That's how I created this form here. Clearly, we don't need two. That was just to demonstrate. I will delete that. And now the important step becomes what happens here on the reset password. the actions after submit. So effectively what happens after someone clicks this button here, actions after submit, because of the Actions Pack plugin which we have installed, we can now choose the reset password option here. Scroll down, reset password, and we now get our settings here for reset password. And what we need to do is map the login ID and the password to the appropriate form fields here, the email and password. Very simple. It's already done because of the way I've set this up to demonstrate. But I would choose for my login ID is email, my password is password. There's only two options in this example. There's a note in here. It says the password field will be automatically hidden or on front end and only be visible when users click on the reset password link. So this will help avoid any confusion that your users have. They'll be very focused on what it is they need to do in order to simply enter their email. As you saw in the demonstration, when I clicked the link, all I did was put my email address in and an email was sent to my inbox for me to reset the password. So email, password, I can reset through link, or again, I can use the one-time password, the OTP option as well. And I'm going to send it via an email, and I can edit my email as well. So I can determine the from name, the from address, the subject. I can send it as an HTML or as a plain text email. And I can see the message text here, which I can customize. Essentially, it has the short code in here, which is the link that will be sent to the subscriber to reset their password. And really, they are the settings. Once you've gone through these settings, this will enable the password reset feature to work. And this will allow your subscribers to come through your own password reset custom designed form, whether it's a page, whether it's a pop-up. It looks great, and you can get creative and just make the styling congruent with your own website design and your custom branding. I hope that helps give you it's difficult to cover all of the features. This video is a quick overview to whet your appetite, show you the key features, show you how the Actions Pack plugin doesn't require configuration from once you install it into your WordPress site. It doesn't require customization as such to get it started. It works out of the box. You activate the plugin, you then go into your form design, and the features are already active. They're built into the Elementor Pro functionality. You need Elementor Pro. That's what's going to make this work for your site. Thank you for watching, and bye-bye for now.